We're crossing live now to Sydney, where the Prime Minister, Malcolm Turnbull, is speaking.
On electricity prices. The fact is that many Australian families, we believe as many as 2 million Australian families, are paying more for their electricity than they ought to be paying. That's to say, they are stuck on rates and plans that are too high and are inappropriate for them. So we are determined to cut a better deal for Australian families and for Australian small businesses. So I'm very pleased to announce that today we've secured the agreement of the energy retailers to write to more of their customers to inform them that a better deal is available. As a result of the action from the 2 meetings we've now had with the retailers, as many as 2 million Australian families and small businesses could save hundreds of dollars on their electricity bills. This is a very big breakthrough, and it's happening here and now. A lot of the things we're doing on energy are long-term, like Snowy Hydro 2.0, but this is helping Australian families now. And you will have seen reports in the media and of people who have been contacted and have secured substantial discounts from their existing plan, saving hundreds of dollars a year. So what the retailers have agreed to do at the previous meeting was to contact those customers they had who were on discounted plans that had expired and let them know that they were paying more than they ought to and that there were better options available. And we've secured support for a rule change to the electricity market rules to ensure that that is always done in the future. We've secured a commitment from the retailers to provide clearer, more understandable information on the electricity rates that are available, along with the development of a single, simple dollar comparator rates. Now, today's meeting went further. We've made further progress. So the retailers are now going to write to customers who are on standing offers, that's to say on the standard offer, and that is at least another 1 million households, more in fact, to inform them that they can get a better deal. Those letters will be sent out by Christmas, they've assured us, and that will invite those customers to go to the Energy Made Easy website and see how they can save potentially a very large amount of money by moving to a more appropriate plan. And they will investigate, the retailers are going to investigate and move towards providing bills on a monthly basis rather than quarterly, as is mostly done at the moment. So this is another example of the progress that we're making. And I want to underline the sharp difference between our approach and that of the Labor Party. Bill Shorten has a plan only for higher electricity prices. He has unachievable, unrealistic, unplanned renewable energy targets without any plan for backup and storage that would make it possible or feasible. He's got a continued commitment to putting a tax on electricity, which will only put prices up, and he has, in his Labor Party family, extraordinary conduct by state governments, in Victoria in particular, where the state government will not allow the exploitation of the substantial gas reserves the state has, thereby reducing the amount of gas supply at a time when we need more gas. Of course, we're taking very deliberate and decisive action to bring down gas prices by increasing the supply by restricting exports. Labor, if that was a problem Labor created when they were last in government. But then in Victoria, we also see now a commitment from the state government to massive increased renewable targets without any plans for storage or backup. And what that will do is continue the process of driving out baseload power, coal-fired baseload power, with the result being, as we've seen already, less reliability and more expensive electricity. And if you want to see what that looks like, South Australia is the great example of that. So we have an approach to electricity and energy prices, and indeed to the approach to the whole network, which is founded on engineering and economics. The Labor Party's approach, and nothing has changed, they've been doing this consistently for years, is founded on left-wing ideology and idiocy. Ideology and idiocy is what is guiding Labor, and the result that Australians will feel from Labor governments is higher prices and less reliable electricity. So we're going in the other direction. We are doing everything we can to ensure reliability and put downward pressure on prices so that electricity is affordable for Australian families and for Australian business. Josh.
Well, thank you, Prime Minister. Due to the actions of your government, Australian families are now alert to the big savings that they can achieve to their electricity bills by moving retailers or contracts. Some 50% of Australian households have not moved retailers or contracts over the last 5 years, even though their savings could be $1,000 or more by doing so. Since our meeting just 3 weeks ago, over 215,000 hits on our government website, Energy Made Easy, which allows people to compare their offer for electricity to other better offers that are available into the market. Today we continued the good progress from the previous meeting where we got that commitment from the companies to write to those who are coming off market offers and to provide relief to those on hardship programs. And today we got a number of other substantial commitments. Just one I would also like to point out, which is we received the agreement of the companies to move to a system whereby people can better access their consumption data and their payment data on a barcode on their bill. And by using a smartphone or a similar device, they can click on that barcode and then automatically get access to better deals that are available in the market, a bit like the QR code system that they have for the electricity market in the United Kingdom. So today was a very significant step forward in what we are doing to lower power bills for Australian families.
Very good.
Prime Minister, could I ask, you said the government, last night, the government won't build a coal-fired power station.
Now, what I said was, I was asked if we had any plans to build a coal-fired power station, and I said we didn't.
Okay. But you think Australia should have a next-generation coal-fired?
Yeah, I'd certainly welcome that, and I've been very consistent. Let me just recap the position. I've been consistent on this for the best part of a decade, actually. We are the largest exporter of coal in the world. Coal has a big future to play, not just in our electricity generation for many, many years to come, but in the world's. We have a vested interest in demonstrating that coal has a high efficiency, low emissions future. So I would welcome a high efficiency, low emission a Healy coal-fired power station being built in Australia. I think it'd be a good thing, and I talked about that at the press club at the beginning of the year. But I want to stress that our approach to energy is guided by engineering and economics. So it's all of the above. So, you know, every technology has a role to play, from hydro and solar and wind, gas, biomass, coal, and many others. So that's our approach. It is not ideological like Labor's is, and of course that Labor has created so many of these problems we're now addressing.
Okay, but considering that situation, what are you willing to do to get that built?
Well, we don't even have a proposal. I would, if there was a proposal to build a new coal-fired power station, then there are various, avenues. I mean, if it was in Northern Australia, for example, in North Queensland, for example, where I know there's been talk about it, it could well qualify for the Northern Australia Infrastructure Fund. But again, you know, we are hypothesising and speculating on this because I'm not aware of any specific proposals. But it is certainly, let me be very clear about this, certainly Australia has a vested interest in at least a demonstration of Healy technology here, and I've been making that point, as I said, for the best part of a decade. Now, can I say, however, that the cheapest form of coal-fired energy is that which comes from the existing power stations. So again, a very important focus of the work that Josh and I have been doing with AEMO and being informed by all of the experts is what can be done to maintain baseload generation in Australia by ensuring that some of these power stations are able to continue for longer, rather than having sudden closures, as you had with Hazelwood, which had a lot of very costly consequences for the electricity market.
And just on that, will a clean energy target be set so that a new coal-fired power station is viable?
Well, we will present a proposal on that shortly, but there is no. I don't foresee there being any barrier to a new coal-fired power station being built, and there's no barrier to one being built now. There are many factors to be taken into account, but we just have to be very clear about this. We are technology agnostic. My view, the government's view, is all of the above. The Labor Party is the party with the ideological objection, not just to coal, I might say. They've got a problem about gas too. Ask the Premier of Victoria what he thinks about gas. He doesn't want to have any gas being extracted from Victoria. In fact, he's talking about having an import terminal to allow gas to be shipped, presumably from northwestern Australia or the Persian Gulf, all the way around to Victoria, because he says there's no gas in Victoria. Well, there is actually plenty of gas in Victoria. He won't allow it to be exploited. And so, this is again left-wing ideology infecting the way in which we approach our energy options. We should approach it on the basis of engineering and economics, and so every form of generation has its particular characteristics, and they should all be weighed up. But Labor is against coal, they're against gas. They've done nothing on storage. My government is the first government to take on this tackle of tackle the challenge of delivering large-scale storage. Snowy Hydro 2.0, an initiative of my government, will be not just the largest battery, pumped hydro in Australia. It'll be the largest in the Southern Hemisphere, and if it goes as I expect it will in the future, to double the size to 4,000 megawatts, it'll be the largest in the world.
Minister, the retailers have agreed to this. Is there any way of enforcing it?
I'll ask Josh to go into that in a bit more detail, but they've agreed to a number of rule changes, so it will literally be the law. But Josh, do you want to
Thanks, Prime
add
Minister.
to that?
Well, the meeting last time, 3 weeks ago, agreed to a specific rule change, which is now being worked through by the Australian Energy Market Commission and will be in place in a matter of weeks, and that is the requirement to write and notify customers who are about to come off a market or a discount offer. Other rule changes agreed to today relate to moving towards monthly billing as opposed to the quarterly billing for those who are on standing offers, and also a requirement that you cannot provide discounts off a base that is higher than a standing offer. What we had found is some companies had been producing market offers which were more expensive than standing offers and then providing a discount off that higher base. Obviously, that is not what is good news for a customer. And a good example of why dollars, not percentages, is going to be critical going forward. For example, if you were getting a 30% discount on a 30 cents a kilowatt price for power, that wouldn't be as good a deal as getting a 20% discount off a 20 cents a kilowatt price of energy. And it's that level of confusion which is trapping customers in these higher price deals, higher price than they should be paying.
When is that going to come out? Like, when are they going to change to the monthly? And then also, when are these letters coming out? You said before Christmas. Is that in the next billing cycle? That kind of thing?
Well, the letter that the Prime Minister alluded to, which was agreed by the companies, is before the end of the year. With the monthly billing, the issue is related to those who have got the appropriate metering arrangements. There are differences between analogue meters and smart meters. With smart meters, you can move to these monthly billing arrangements much more easily. And as you know, Victorian customers, for example, by and large have the smart meters, and that new meters being introduced across the country as smart meters, but not everyone does. So there will be a difference in the terms of the time frame for the implementation of that particular change, based on where the technology is today.
Last question, please.
Prime Minister, do you think informing customers of a higher rate is a band-aid solution? And you said before you...
Of a lower rate, I think.
Yes,
Yep.
sorry, a lower rate. And also, when are you planning to implement that clean energy target? You said shortly, but when exactly?
Well, we're waiting on some advice from the Australian energy market operator about the forecast shortfall of baseload power. This is dispatchable power. This is energy that can be generated, on demand, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and that's what's been going out of the system. See, this is very important to understand that solar and wind are very, very, very valuable technologies, and their contribution is increasing. It will continue to increase. The costs are coming down, but they are not dispatchable because you can't, the sun doesn't shine all the time, the wind doesn't blow all the time. And so you need storage. That's why Snowy Hydro 2.0 is so important. It's the biggest renewable energy project undertaken in Australia since the original Snowy Hydro scheme was built. And it's my government that is taking that on. That is our decision. That's our initiative. So when people say that the Turnbull government is not committed to renewables, they're dead wrong. We are totally focused on ensuring that renewables are reliable, because what we're doing is we're not being taken in with all the ideology. The reality is Australians want to know that they can afford their electricity and it's reliable. Where the electrons come from is a secondary consideration. Now, what Labor has done is, because it's focused on this ideological approach, is that they've overlooked the fact that the object of the electricity system is to deliver affordable and reliable electricity. So that's what we're solving for. We're focused on that. Now, in terms of what we're doing here, this is happening now. This is happening in real time, in the here and now. So these letters are going out. Customers are already being contacted. Customers are, including some distinguished journalists who've written about it in their publications. Some are getting contacted, and they're getting discounts, and they're paying less for their electricity. So we've got a series of policies on energy which operate in the here and now, like this one, that operate in the here and now, like what we're doing on gas. You see, gas prices, as you know, went through the roof because there was a shortage of gas on the east coast of Australia. Why was that? Well, it was the previous Labor government that Mr Shorten was a minister in that allowed gas to be exported without any regard for the consequences in the domestic market. They didn't bother about Australian customers. They're only interested in, apparently, in exporting gas. Well, we've had to solve for that again and put some restrictions on exports, and the consequence of that measure is you've already seen the wholesale price of gas coming down. You've seen more gas being provided to the market. So again, that's happening now. In the medium term, Josh has taken steps to what we're legislating to abolish limited merits reviews, which is the way in which the owners of the poles and wires have gamed the system to overturn decisions of the energy regulator and, in effect, jack up the price they're charging for their poles and wires. That's cost customers, that's cost consumers, all of us, billions of dollars. So we're stopping that. Now, that will have effect over the next few years. And then in the longer term, over 6 years or so, the time it'll take to build Snowy Hydro 2.0, you've got another big contribution. So whether it's in the here and now, the medium term or the long term, we are absolutely, relentlessly focused on ensuring that Australians pay no more for electricity than they need to, and that we will have an electricity system that delivers affordable and reliable energy. That is our focus. We're doing everything we can to deliver that. Just one more.
Can I just ask about, should Labor Senator Katie Gallagher be referred to the High Court? And also, do you have any concerns about the safety of Australians in South Korea and Japan, considering the latest threats?
Well, look, I think the High Court's got plenty of citizenship test cases already on its docket. No, well, I'll leave that to Mr Shorten. He's got to make a few. He's got the opportunity to make a few disclosures of his own on that subject. Look, turning to Korea again, we utterly condemn the reckless and provocative action by the North Korean regime with its latest missile launch, which, as you know, flew over the Hokkaido in northern Japan yesterday. This is another reckless and dangerous act. It has been condemned by the global community. It's been condemned by the United Nations Security Council. Again, we call on all nations to enforce the UN Security Council sanctions, and in particular, as we are doing, we have our own autonomous sanctions, and we'll enforce the UN Security Council sanctions. But the country with the greatest leverage over North Korea, and this is not a criticism of China, this is just a fact. China has the greatest leverage over North Korea. It has a unique ability to bring the North Korean regime to its senses by applying economic pressure. Now, China has said that they will enforce, starting from next week, the UN sanctions that would mean that North Korea wouldn't be exporting iron ore or coal or seafood, for that matter, to China. Now, that will bring a heavy cost to North Korea. But China has the greatest leverage, and with the greatest leverage comes the greatest responsibility. So we call on all nations to do everything they can to bring this reckless regime to its senses. And on that note, we must wrap this up, as I have a call with Prime Minister Abe on this very topic. Thank you.